I'm gonna tell you something that still feels unreal when I say it out loud. The night my date ghosted me, I ended up crying in a parking garage with my forehead pressed against a car that cost more than every apartment I've lived in combined, and I swear on my kid's life I wasn't trying to be dramatic, I was trying to breathe. I'd spent all week telling my daughter, Maisie, that mommy was going on a date, and she got so excited you'd think I'd promised her a puppy. She kept saying, maybe he'll be nice, maybe we won't have to move again, like a 7-year-old was. Somehow carrying the whole weight of our life on her little shoulders, and I was smiling and nodding like I had answers, when really I was doing that thing single moms do where you pretend you're fine because if you don't pretend, you might fall apart in the cereal aisle. I work as an in-home caregiver in Harbor Line, good work, honest work, also the kind of work where your back hurts and your bank account laughs at you. That night, I took my last decent $40 and bought a black dress from a thrift store that smelled like someone else's perfume and old confidence. I curled my hair in the mirror while Maisie sat on the toilet lid like she was my tiny therapist, judging my lipstick choices like a runway coach. I got to the restaurant at the Marlowe early. Because when you've been treated like you're disposable, you show up early, you show up grateful, you show up trying not to take up too much space. I waited 15 minutes. Then 30. Then 45. The hostess kept giving me that look that says, honey, you okay? In a way that makes you want to crawl under the table. Finally, I checked my phone and there it was, a message. From Caleb, finance guy, that said, something came up. Can't make it. No apology, no explanation, just one cold little line like I was a meeting he could cancel. My face got hot. Like everybody in that fancy room suddenly knew I didn't belong there, like they could smell the budget shampoo on me. I grabbed my purse and walked out before the tears could embarrass me in public. I ended up in the executive parking garage because it was quiet, and quiet feels safer when you're braking. That's when I saw the car. A silver coupe, polished like it had never seen bad weather or bad choices. I leaned against it for 1 second, just to steady myself, and then I lost it. Ugly crying. The kind where you're mad at yourself for crying but you can't stop because everything has piled up too high. I was thinking about Maisie and the babysitter fee ticking up by the minute, about the parking ticket I couldn't afford, about the landlord notice sitting on my kitchen counter, telling me we had 60 days to leave because the building was going luxury. I was thinking about how I keep telling my daughter, we'll be okay, and praying she doesn't hear the crack in my voice when I say it. And then I heard a man's voice behind me, calm but not friendly, like he was used to people moving when he spoke. Ma'am. That's my car. I turned so fast I almost dropped my phone. He was tall, dressed like he stepped out of an ad, not flashy, just expensive in that quiet way. Dark coat, clean shoes, eyes that looked tired but sharp, like he'd been thinking too hard for too long. I wiped my face and immediately made it worse, mascara smearing like a crime scene. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, I said, backing away from the car like it burned. I wasn't. I just needed a minute. I'll go. He should have been annoyed. I would have been annoyed. Instead, he paused, and I saw him actually look at me, not through me. Are you hurt? He asked. I let out this laugh that wasn't funny. Not physically, I said, and then the words just poured out because once a dam breaks, it doesn't ask permission. I told him I got stood up. I told him I spent my last money on a stupid dress. I told him my babysitter charges by the hour. I told him my daughter thinks nice men still exist and I didn't know how to tell her maybe they don't. At least not for women like me who show up with tired eyes and a kid and a life that's always one bill away from falling apart. The second I finished, I wanted to disappear. I actually said, please forget you heard that. I'm gonna go die of embarrassment now. And here's the part that still messes with my head. He didn't laugh. He didn't give me that pity face people wear like it's Kindness. He just said, "What's your daughter's name?" Like that was the most normal question in the world. I blinked. "Maisie," I said, and immediately my voice softened because moms can be wrecked. "And still light up when you say their kid's name. She's 7. He nodded, like he filed it away. Then he reached into his wallet, pulled out cash, and pressed it into my hand before I could even say no. "This covers your parking, a ride home, and your babysitter," he said. No arguments. I tried to push it back at him, because pride is the only thing you can own when money is always slipping through your fingers. "I can't take this," I said. "You don't even know me." I could be running a sob story hustle in parking garages. He lifted one eyebrow. "Are you?" I opened my mouth. Closed it. "No, then we're settled," he said. I stared at the bills like they were fake. My throat tightened in a way I hated. "Why are you doing this?" I asked. He hesitated like the honest answer. Surprised him too. "Call it paying forward something I once needed," he said, and his voice got quieter at the end. I said thank you, because refusing help doesn't make you strong, it just makes you alone. He held out his hand. "Ethan Kincaid," he said. The name hit me like a headline. My brain did that awful thing where it connects dots you didn't ask it to connect. "Wait," I said. "Ethan Kincaid, as in Kincaid Holdings?" He gave a small, tired smile. "Guilty." My stomach dropped. This man wasn't just rich. He was the kind of rich that lives behind tinted glass and doesn't touch elevator buttons. I looked down at the money in my hand and felt my face burn again. "This is too weird," I said. "I really can't dash," he cut me off gently. "Right now you're a mom trying to get home to her kid," he said. "That's all I'm seeing." Then he did something that made my heart pinch. He said, "The guy who stood you up tonight is an idiot." I actually smiled, a real one, and it felt like finding sunlight after weeks of rain. I went home, paid the babysitter, kissed Maisie's forehead while she slept, and told myself that was it. One strange moment of kindness from a man who'd forget my face by morning. Except he didn't. The next night, there was a soft knock on my apartment door. Not a neighbor knock. Not a drunk knock. A careful knock. I opened it and there he was, Ethan Kincaid, standing in my flickering hallway like a luxury car parked in a pothole. I literally said, "How did you? Why are you here?" And he looked, and I swear this is true. Uncomfortable. Like he didn't like the way he'd handled something. "I owe you an apology," he said. I stared. "For what?" "Being nice to me." He exhaled and rubbed the back of his neck. "For throwing money at you and sending you away like you were a problem to solve," he said. That was patronizing. I blinked, because rich men don't usually apologize for how kindness lands. "You followed me home to apologize for being helpful," I said, and I couldn't stop the incredulous laugh. "When you say it like that, it sounds creepy," he admitted, and for the first time he looked human. "I promise I'm not a stalker. Your parking ticket had your plate number and I have resources and—" Yeah, that sounded worse than it did in my head. I should have shut the door. Every survival instinct I've ever built said, don't get pulled into some billionaire's weird orbit. But he wasn't slick. He wasn't flirting like a guy who collects women like watches. He looked like a man who made a decision and then got haunted by it. "I canceled my plans tonight," he said, "and I couldn't stop thinking about what you said. About Maisie believing you meeting someone nice would fix your life." My chest tightened because he said her name like it mattered. "So I'm proposing a deal," he added. "A deal?" I repeated, arms crossed automatically. He nodded. My sister keeps setting me up on blind dates with perfect women, he said, and his mouth twisted like the word tasted fake. I can't stand it. Meanwhile, you need one decent story to tell your daughter so she doesn't lose faith in people. Let me take you to dinner. A real dinner. No pressure, no expectations. You get to go home and tell Maisie you met someone who showed up. I get to tell my sister I went on a date and buy myself some peace. I stared at him like he'd offered me a business contract. That is the most unromantic romantic thing I've ever heard, I said. He actually smiled. I'm told I'm not great at this part, he said. And I don't know if it was the exhaustion or the way he looked genuinely nervous or the fact my kid had been hoping all week. But I said yes. Saturday. Somewhere normal. Somewhere with prices on the menu. He agreed, mostly, and I made him promise he wouldn't do the fancy rescue thing. He promised. And then promptly broke that promise in the most frustrating way. The day before the date, a package arrived. Not one dress, 3. And shoes. And a note that said, pick the one that makes you feel like yourself. You deserve to feel beautiful. I sat on my couch staring at those dresses like they belonged to a different woman. Maisie came home, saw me holding up the green one, and her eyes went wide. Mommy. She whispered, you look like a princess. Then she did the thing that made my heart crack. She asked, is he gonna be my new dad? I knelt down and held her little shoulders and said, no. Baby. It's just dinner. We don't know him like that. And she looked at me like she was older than 7 and said, but he was nice when you were sad. Kids don't care about net worth. They care about who shows up. Saturday came and I picked the green dress because it made my eyes look alive again. Ethan arrived at exactly 7:30, not 7:31. Maisie answered the door before I could stop her and asked, loud as day, are you the nice man taking my mommy on a date? I wanted the floor to swallow me. Ethan crouched down to her level like he'd done it 100 times. I am. He said. You must be Maisie. He handed me flowers, not some dramatic bouquet, just warm and simple, and then he handed my daughter a wrapped gift. It was a hardcover book of stories with illustrations, the kind of thing you keep forever. Maisie hugged it to her chest like it was treasure. Then she looked him dead in the face and said, you bring her home safe, okay? He didn't laugh. He said, I promise. In the elevator, I whispered, sorry. She's protective. Ethan's mouth softened. She should be, he said. Dinner was at a small waterfront place, not the Marlowe. Not a palace, somewhere that felt real. We talked like normal people. He asked about my work, and he actually listened, like the details mattered. He told me he grew up broke, raised by a mom who hustled harder than anyone. I told him I hadn't had a real night off in years. We laughed. I started to relax. And that's when my phone rang. Mrs. Dalloway, my elderly neighbor who babysits, and her voice was tight. Lena, she whispered, your ex-husband is here. My blood turned to ice. What do you mean he's here? I hissed. He's at your door demanding to see Maisie, she said. He's yelling in the hallway. I stood up so fast my chair scraped. Ethan was already moving, reaching for his jacket. We're going, he said. In the car, my hands shook. My ex, Trent, hadn't called in 3 years. No child support, no birthdays, nothing. Just silence. And then he shows up the one night I let myself breathe. When we got to my building, I could hear his voice. Before I even turned the corner, that same entitled tone that used to make me feel small. That's my daughter, he snapped at Mrs. Dalloway. You can't keep me from her. Then he saw me and his face flipped into a fake smile like he was auditioning. Lena, he said, finally. His eyes slid to Ethan and I watched the math happen in his head. Who's this? He asked, already sneering. Someone who actually shows up, Ethan said calmly. Trent laughed, ugly. Oh, this is adorable, he said, looking at me like I'd committed a crime. So you're dating a rich guy now? Using my kid as bait? Classic. Something in me snapped, not into rage like a movie, but into this cold clarity I'd been building for years. I stepped forward. Get out, I said. Trent blinked like. He didn't understand the concept. I have rights, he said. No, I said, voice shaking but steady, you signed them away. You walked out. You do not get to come back because your life got inconvenient. His face tightened. I made a mistake, he said, and I heard the lie in it. Christine left, he admitted, slipping. Took half my stuff. I'm starting over. There it was. Not love. Not regret. Need. He wasn't here for Maisie. He was here because he lost his cushion and remembered he had a kid-shaped excuse to look like a good man. I pointed at the door. Maisie is asleep and she's not waking up to your chaos, I said. You don't get to confuse her with promises you won't keep. Trent's voice rose. You can't keep her from me forever. Ethan took one step forward. And his tone went glacial. She can, he said, and if you keep harassing her, she'll have a restraining order by Monday. I'll make sure you understand every legal word of it. Trent stared at him, realizing this wasn't a bluff. Then he turned back to me with venom. When he figures out what you really are, he spat, a broke single mom with nothing to offer, don't come crying. That line used to destroy me. That night, it didn't. I said, leave, and I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to. He stormed off, and my legs went weak the second he disappeared. I sank against the wall, embarrassed that my life was messy in front of Ethan, embarrassed that the princess dress moment had turned into hallway drama. Ethan crouched beside me and said, you have nothing to apologize for. Then he looked me in the eye and said, what he said is wrong. You're raising a great kid. You're working your body into the ground for her. That's not nothing. That's everything. I swallowed hard and whispered, why are you being so good to us? And he didn't give me a billionaire line. He didn't say something polished. He hesitated, then said, because I haven't felt this awake in years. And because Maisie shouldn't grow up thinking men only show up when it benefits them. After he left, I checked on my daughter. She was still asleep, hugging that storybook like it was armor. I sat on my couch in the quiet and realized something huge. My win wasn't getting a billionaire's attention. My win was standing in that hallway and refusing to be spoken to like I'm disposable. It was protecting my kid without begging anyone for permission. It was finally believing I deserved consistency, not crumbs. Now here's where it gets complicated, and where I want you to tell me what you think. Because after that night, Ethan kept showing up. Not with grand gestures, but with the boring, beautiful stuff, texts that said, how'd Maisie's day go, rides when my car wouldn't start, a jacket left on my chair because he noticed I always got cold. He met my world without acting like it was beneath him. And my daughter started to trust him, which is the scariest thing in the universe, because kids don't do half love. They go all in. And I started to wonder. Is it okay to let someone with that much power step into our life, even if he's kind? Or does that power imbalance always turn into a cage, even when it starts as a rescue? People love a fairy tale, but real life doesn't come with guarantees. And I'm not interested in trading one kind of fear for another. So I'm asking you, if you were me, would you take the chance? Would you let a man like that into your world if he proved he could show up? Or would you run because it feels too good to be true? And one more thing, do you think Trent deserves any access after signing away his rights, or should "you left" mean you're done? No matter what. Drop your take in the comments, and don't hold back. I want to know what you believe about forgiveness, power, and whether people can actually change when it matters most.